Nerdarchist Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 Nerds by Nerds, hanging out with
Nerdarchist Ted.
How is everyone doing this fine Saturday afternoon? We're finally getting some cool weather in here in New Jersey. So happy.
Problem is it went from hot to cold. So
And then back to balmy again.
Well, we did have that 1 week, or the one stretch of a few days where it's we're going to be pushing 80 to 90 in October.
Back to balmy again.
Well, we did have.
So
somebody forgot to silence their phone.
Someone forgot. So I'm hoping we made some adjustments. I'm hoping it takes some of the choppiness out of the video. We are aware, folks. It's just that we run it through several programs, and it creates a hiccup, and we're not very tech savvy. Someone forgot to silence their voice.
Today's episode, we're talking about tips and tricks, home brews.
I think so. Yes, we are. No, not homebrews. Improv.
Oh, improv. That's right. So I was gonna make a coffee joke, but can't do that here.
Make a coffee joke.
Homebrew.
You can. It just won't be on. It just won't be on subject.
On point.
Oh well. No coffee jokes for you. And you don't drink coffee anyway.
Yeah, but I can still make the jokes.
I don't know. I think the coffee police might show up and beat you down.
That's fine.
So improv, I guess it's kind of good that Nate isn't here today because, that's not his thing as much as it is ours.
That's true. Nate's
he likes to write and think and stuff.
Well, Nate's a kind of a planner in general. But for us, we've been running for quite a while, and we've reached a point where it's so many times players just go off the rails. They go off of whatever you had planned. And we've just developed the skill set to just be well, what do you do when the players don't do what you had ready?
I just feel like as a GM, you might as well set up a paper shredder right next to where you're GMing from and be oh, don't need this anymore.
It's so true. We've joked about this before. The campaign that I ran, or the one shot that I ran all those years ago, hanging out at my mom's, where you're I'm gonna play an enchanter, and you cast Charm Person on some people and totally change the scope.
Yeah, you're I have an adventure planned, and you're guys need to leave the town or the city or whatever it was. I'm why would I want to go out there? It's dangerous.
There's monsters and stuff out there. I don't want to do that.
And here in the town, there's people with money that will pay me for services rendered. So. Yeah, so I think us becoming improv GMs had more to do with the fact that we've just been thwarted by our players so many times that it just seemed what's the point? And also too, from another standpoint, we both have run games where we've put all this effort into creating stuff and having the game ready to go, and then you run it and the player's yeah, it was okay, or then you'll run something off the cuff and they're oh my god, that was so amazing, and you're I had nothing. I don't know what to tell you.
It is vastly incredible how that can change the mindset of a DM. When you plan and it's oh, that's fun, and you don't plan and that was great, why would you plan?
So we kind of talked about we've just kind of touched on why we're improv GMs. So I guess we should go into the direction of what kind of advice can we give people who want to be improv GMs? Because I've also played with other people that do a lot of GMing and they are prep GMs and they're I don't know how you can just run and not have anything prepared.
Well, first and foremost, if you're starting a new game, it's always good to wind up talking to your players and find out what kind of characters they're making and what kind of things that they're interested in. The worst thing that you can do is spend time preparing for adventure hooks and encounters that your players have no interest in interacting with. There's been times where you come up with this really awesome encounter and you describe it well, and the player's yep, I'm out, I'm done.
So one of the things I will say, though, you can do, if you want to spend a lot of prep time doing stuff and you enjoy that, I would shift to where you spend your prep time, right? If you don't want to just do kind of like we do and some other people I know do that, where they just show up, maybe they write down a couple sentences for ideas and then go from there. You can build a toolbox, right, as a GM, where you're essentially going to have a lot of prep done, but isn't for any one particular situation or for the game tonight per se. What you're going to do is you're going to build the sandbox and fill it with things like NPCs and encounters that you just have ready, sheets for treasure. It might be sections of a town or various towns that you can use and pull out when you have your players playing the game, right? Instead of having a planned out scenario, you have them start the game and they do something that creates a trigger for you and go, oh, well, I can use this encounter I made before because they're going to this place and this would fit there. Or, oh, they want to see so-and-so. Well, it so happens I have an NPC that will fit that whether it's the owner of the tavern, the blacksmith, an alchemist in town, or a crazy wizard. You just happen to have those. So you're not going in cold, right? But you also didn't plan it for this night per se. So your prep time becomes, what are some things that can populate the area that they're going to be in with, or it's going to be, looking at the notes from your session before, whether you take the notes as you're playing, have a player who takes notes for you and hands them into you at the end of the session, or at the end of your session, you write down notes that happened during the session. So you write, like, that might be your prep for your next session is the notes from this session that just happened, because more than likely they'll interact with that material or they'll revisit that material because they're already kind of vested in it because they've done stuff with it. They've touched with it, they've played with it, they think of it as theirs now. Absolutely.
Another thing that you might want to do is getting familiar with the source books. If you know what kind of monsters that are there to choose from, and pick out a handful that are over a range. Like, oh, I know a troll is a challenge 5, and my party is this level, so 1 to 3 trolls will be a good encounter for them, regardless of whether you are going to use them as trolls or whether you reskin them and describe them absolutely differently so the players don't know what they're encountering. You have some encounters, some things that you can use that are ready to go. Like you said for NPCs, but with monsters as well.
Yeah, and maybe you're not even sure how to do that part. You don't know where to get started. Over on the website, we have the out of the box encounters, and also we have the character build guides that we have been doing for the Adventure League's character builds. Right, you can take a look at those because we always do an NPC section. So if you need NPCs, you can start compiling them over there. And they're in the DM's Guild. They pay what you want. So you can download them for free or you can pay for them. It's your choice. But that might also give you some ideas. The out of the box are structured a certain way. So when you look at them, it might give you an idea of what you like in an encounter structure or what you don't like. Or you could just straight up just use them because we have a bunch of them floating around.
So, these are just, some of the things that you wind up doing when you start improvising. I don't know what your skills are. You might knock it out of the park, or you might, stumble a little bit, and that's okay. The more you do any skill set, the better off that you're going to be. You'll build this out as you go. So when you sit there and you try. Ask your players, well, what do you want to do? That's a really powerful question. And if your players are going to be honest, they will tell you exactly what they want. Over and over again, ask that question, get that answer, and you'll be able to build out what's going on.
I have a caveat to that. If you're saying it over and over again in a row, though,
something
has gone wrong, right? You need to fucking blow shit up, start a fight, throw a chair, whatever needs to happen, in game, out of game, whatever. You need to make something happen. Clearly the players are floundering, and now as a GM you have to step up and you have to create situations for them to interact with. Someone screams outside the tavern, an urchin comes running up, they need help, whatever it is, and you just need to give them a kick sometimes, right? And then get them going in a direction.
Yeah, sometimes the scene that they're in, they're stuck, and you do need to force that. So as Dave says, if you get some catalyst that makes a scene change, now, like, okay, the players are not taking that initiative to create what the next thing is. You force it upon them now they need to react to whatever that change is.
Yeah, they might need some stimuli, some circumstances, and they may not react in the way you think, right? They might be. It may not work, right? There's a scream outside the tavern. They're like, not my problem, but so you might have to go, a step further. The person might have to run into the tavern bleeding or be thrown through the doors, or the tavern might have to catch fire. You might just have to do something else. It's really difficult to set the circus on fire. It's very difficult when you have unengaged players. Improv GMing does work better when you have players that want to do things, right? I find that if you're running linear adventures and your players don't care, then you probably won't run into the things we talked about with, oh, my players always do something else and do something crazy. There are just certain groups that are just on the rails groups, right? It's what they like. It's what they want. They get annoyed when the GM isn't giving them things to do, and they want to play it like a video game. It may be not the greatest group for you, or maybe you don't care, but that's also something you have to kind of watch out for too. And it's like just knowing your group, right? If you don't, if you're not interested in being an improv GM, and your players take whatever hooks you give them, and they never throw you curveballs, improv GMing might be pointless for you,
right?
But if you're on the other side of that and your players are nothing but curveballs, that's where I feel like improv GMing really shines, because it also usually means you have a bunch of players that are going to do stuff, and they're going to do unexpected stuff.
And you then have the ability to react to what those characters are saying and what those players are doing. And you can then, oh, well, I didn't waste 2 hours prepping this. I can just do this thing that you are asking for, and I can put this together on the fly. One of my most recent sessions, I was expecting one thing. The players decided to go down a different road. So literally, while the players are talking, I've got one ear listening to them. Meanwhile, I'm reading lore in one of the D&D books behind me, or behind Dave over here. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know this lore myself. I'm going to use this. And when we brought it up again the next session, the players totally thought that I had made that up. And I'm like, no, it's right here in the book. And, we went and did this whole investigative thing. And it's, slightly altered things, back to be more on track to what I originally had wanted to do with the game. But through their research and through what they've done, they brought that back out themselves. So I'm like, all right, this works.
So I see an interesting concept in the chat. A couple people are talking about this, and I think there's a time when we probably did a lot more of this, and that is the idea of building the characters with the GM one-on-one. There was a time that I felt like that was the way you should always do it, but now I don't like that as much. That it's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with it, but the thing that I don't like about that is creating characters in a vacuum from the other players.
Right.
Now I feel like, you should really, I would rather see the character creation process be collaborative between the players, not so much in the, hey, I'm playing a tank, so you should be a healer, as in, how about making characters that actually would interact with each other and would want to hang out and do things together.
When you make characters that have relationships, when be they for good or for ill, it makes for, good drama. It makes for good role playing. When you have characters that all are isolated, it makes for a more challenging group dynamic, because, like, if they're not going to communicate, if they're not going to care about the other person or the other people, what is that going to say? Well, why are you adventuring together? Why do you keep coming back to the same people over and over again? Because over a long series, game, it could be weeks, months, years that you're doing stuff together. If you don't have anything in common, if you don't care about those people, you really have to ask yourself as a character, why do you keep doing that?
Yeah, so like if you're doing the one-on-one thing, it's fine. I would just recommend that you have your players leave room for those interactions with the other players and places where you can make connections and ties to make a stronger group dynamic. Like we've talked about this before, where we used to spend so much time just getting the group together, and it's such a waste of time. And yeah, sure, it's fun for the people that have the scene going on right now, but for the new guy that just came to the table and is waiting to get in, waiting 2 hours is not fun.
I wholeheartedly agree. We've talked about a variety of different role playing games. Here somewhere behind me is a rule book for Dungeon World, and Dungeon World has those in those character creation processes. It points you and links you to other characters in the party, and that's one thing that I would really like to kind of steal and try to come up with ways to import that into 5th edition, because it would really make sense, or really add to party dynamic of oh, well, how do you know this person? How do you know that person? And save a lot of time on the DM or GM. Back when we were younger, we didn't have the wife and the family and that kind of stuff. So there was more time to devote to the game. Now that there's all these activities and things going on, plus interacting with all you awesome people out there, it's a lot harder to find time to let's sit down and come up with that linked backstory and let's roll these one-on-one sessions. That just it's too much for just that little bit of outcome.
So Sean wants to know what Dungeon World is.
Oh, Dungeon World is another role-playing game that's out there, and it's very similar in style to D&D from some regards, but it's a role-playing system that is designed with a lot of player agency, much more so than D&D. The first time I played was a few years ago at Philly Games Con, a short-lived convention, sadly. And I showed up but never played before, and the guy's like, "What do you want to play?" And I said, "I'm going to be a dwarven cleric." "All right, what does that dwarven cleric want to do?" Not knowing, I'm like, "I want to go find some holy relic of the dwarven people." And that's what we did. It was I was blown away that all of the choices were made based on what I had set forth, and wound up having some other people join the game, and we went off and did stuff. There's a Dungeon World one-shot on the channel somewhere. It was run a handful of months ago.
It's out there. It exists. So it just occurred to me that I'm supposed to be doing a giveaway, or we're supposed to be doing a giveaway for the Easy Roller Dice. And I did not select a winner yet.
Oh my.
I did not hit the button. But our new contest is going to be up this week. You can look for one of our videos, which will be our Easy Roller sponsored video, where we're going to talk about that. I'm gonna try something crazy and see if I can actually
access this via phone.
Access this right here live.
All right. Well, while he's pulling that up, he's talking about giveaways. Every time we do a giveaway, we always give the person 2 weeks to respond. And our Invisible Sun giveaway we announced 2 weeks ago, and sadly, the person who was selected has not responded to any of my emails. So we're actually going to pick a new winner. Actually, I've already put it into the fancy thinking box. And the name that is popped out, I've got here to say at some point in time during the stream. But we've also got some other things that are going to go into our giveaway pile. We have from, if you remember some time ago, Mythic Mint. They sponsored one of our videos. They had a Kickstarter for campaign coins, and they sent us a batch that we're going to give away. These are awesome coins. We got gold, copper, and silver, so you could use these as an awesome prop at your gaming table. They're fun to fiddle and play around with. So there's over 150 coins here that'll get shipped to somebody at some point in time. But that's not all I got for coins.
There's more.
Rare Elements currently has a Kickstarter going. If you jump down to the description below, under the Kickstarter section, there is a Kickstarter for them going on. This batch is slightly smaller, but in a variety of different shapes, sizes, and awesome artwork on these guys. At some point in time, this will be given away as well. We might throw the whole batch together. Who knows? But that's out there, and I'm still not done.
There's more.
WizKids has decided to send us some board games. So we have Marvel Strike Teams and the expansion Avengers Initiative is right here. We've got a little board game ready to go. We'll give that away at some point in time, and I'm still not done. Also from WizKids, the Heroes of Dominaria, another Magic the Gathering themed board game that's out there. We're going to add this to the pile. We may or may not, considering the number of giveaways we're mentioning today, we may or may not decide to offer one of these things up today. That'll be decided on air.
Speaking about deciding things on air, we do have a winner for the Easy Roller Dice contest, and that's a set of metal dice, 3 sets of plastic pahedrals, a dice bag, a dice tray,
dice cup.
I think that's everything.
I think so.
But yeah, you get to win all the Easy Roller Dice, and Riley Uzo is our winner. So we will be contacting Riley today or tomorrow to get that information out there. So
congratulations.
Awesome.
So do we want to announce the Invisible Sun as well?
Sure, why not?
All right. So apologies to the person who didn't get back to me, but the Invisible Sun is going to Sean Thomas.
Oh, nice. We know who that is.
Well, he's one of our top patron supporters at the moment. We're actually friends on Facebook, so I actually asked him to come join the chat today so that he would be able to hear his name.
Nice.
I didn't tell him that his name came out of the fancy thinking box, but I did tell him to pay attention.
And did we meet Sean out in LA?
We did.
Yes, that's what I thought. So that is quite awesome. Sean is a great guy, and it is always cool. But folks, if you're actually on here watching now and you're like entering these contests, please give us emails that are good for you, so that we can reach out to you and make sure you get the prizes. I don't know if we're going into, or also check your spam. When
spam filters.
Your spam filters when the contests have ended, just in case something has gone into there as well.
So Sean, I have contact with you, but if you want to send me out your address, I can send you a copy of Invisible Sun, the Black Cube.
Questions?
So,
we have lots of questions.
I see one of them that I would like to address since I do the thumbnails. So, we were talking about DMing stuff, and Matt is like one of the best DMs out there. Why would we not use his likeness as a representation of DMing?
What was the actual question?
Why did you use Matt Mercer for the thumbnail?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so is that, I don't know if that's like a heavily filtered photograph or if that's actually like a painting or something that's out there on the interwebs. But we have a lot of respect for Matt as a GM.
Yep. We've met him in person. He supposedly has commented on one of our more recent videos. When we met him in person, he said that he's been watching from pretty close to the beginning and likes the stuff that we do, which was made us super proud. I didn't become a fan of Critical Role until after Campaign 2 really got started, but I've been trying to catch it all. I'm up to episode 91 of the first campaign, and I know that I keep a little mental notebook of the different things that I'm picking up as tips just from watching that show.
That'd be great if you're writing them down. You could do a whole segment on that. what I learned from watching Matt Mercer.
I could come up with a little checklist on that.
I don't know if you guys would be interested in what Ted's learned from watching Matt Mercer. I do not watch stream games.
I mean, it's not for everybody, and I mean, you really do get to see, both sides of the argument, both sides of the coin, of people who really like, what they do. There's a lot of people who like don't play D&D, but they watch them because they're entertaining and amusing. And then you've got people who are more like yourself. They're diehard fans, and it's like, look, I'd rather play than watch. So, I mean, I don't have any issues either way. I find enjoyment, and I get to listen to amusing actors play D&D while I work. So
Mike Gould wants to know how you're feeling, Dave. Are you sore from the crash?
I don't, actually, I don't know that I feel anything. I'm at that age where I just feel sore all the time anyway. And, like, I'm trying to go to the gym more. And, like, I don't know. Is it from the hitting the deer, or is it from being old? I don't know.
Now, is that the gym where you work out, or the gyms where you get, like, subs?
Not the gyms where you get subs. Although I do like a good sub, but we call them hoagies here in South Jersey, Ted. We're going to exile you to North Jersey.
James Leslie says, in regards to Ted not drinking coffee, you don't drink coffee, you don't drink alcohol, level with us. Is Ted a zombie?
Ted is a figment of our imaginations. He doesn't really exist. That's why he wasn't here last week. Our imaginations ran low. We couldn't conjure him.
It's like a Kuotoa.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink coffee. I'm an abomination. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of people sharing tips. I know there was other questions.
Raven says, my favorite stream game was Scarlet Sister. I'm glad you enjoyed it. We've been talking. I think I've just been really busy right now, but we've been talking about doing a new game with most of the same crew.
Well, Megan's kind of planning a wedding.
Yeah, Megan is planning a wedding. She's also going to be the GM.
So I would imagine that, things kind of got to settle down for her before she'd be ready to pick things up. Although, like, the RPG Crate game that I ran last night should have been this upcoming Friday night. And she's like, I would really appreciate it if we could push it not the night before the wedding.
Oh. Come on. How better way to celebrate D&D or your wedding than playing D&D the night before?
It turns out that I'm not going to be available this upcoming Friday. So, like, I did move it more for me than for her. But Megan's an awesome player. Really enjoy having her there. So I would absolutely have moved it, for her had she really needed it. But she's like, I'm willing to play, but I'd like to move it.
Nice. So, actually we kind of like derailed ourselves. I would like to jump back to the idea of improv DMing, and what are some of the things that we do to kind of like facilitate those games and get better. I've said it before in other videos, and I think it bears mentioning again, and that's just like the main thing is while you're doing the game is to listen. Like, if you've got players that speculate at the table, that is a gold mine. That is the best. I love taking some of those ideas and be like, yeah, I'm going to use that. We're going to circle back to that. Sometimes it's really hard because if you have players that are speculating a lot, and maybe you're streaming a game and then you're getting people in the chat that are speculating as well, then you get like way too many good ideas.
The other thing is, beyond just listening to what they say, sometimes it's best to just be quiet. If they're talking, don't force yourself in, because it's very possible that what they say and what they do is going to lead to something. If you've got some idea that you put out there, like, oh, this is the way to solve this puzzle, and the players come up with a really good idea, let it work. Just because you've written something or you've thought of something, like, be willing to throw all of that out and move forward with what's actually happening, because there is nothing more rewarding for a player who feels they've come up with a creative idea than to have it work. If they come up with a great idea and it's like, well, no, this isn't what I've written down here, that destroys their morale and stops them from trying to think outside the box and come up with those cool things.
Yeah, like, another area that you can look at too when you're talking about this. Now, this is like an improv GMing thing. Even if you prep and you're using only prep material, that is literally when the players come up with the ideas. Let them work. Let them mean something. If a player wants to try something crazy in combat, make them make extra checks to do it, but give them benefits for doing it as well. But, if they make their checks, they get advantage, or they do extra damage, or something that makes them want to try doing things again. Otherwise, you will only ever get, I hit it with my sword, or I cast a spell, because you have not incentivized them. You've de-incentivized them to do the cool thing, actually.
Another thing, and it's fleeing out of my ear. I'm trying to shove it back in. When the players are, come on, get out. It's stuck in my head.
Well, while you're thinking about that, someone asked about roll tables. What roll tables do you use? Ted plays very analog at the table. I actually like having digital stuff at the table. Like for my prep, a lot of times I like analog, but if I'm doing prep. But other times, at the table itself, I like to have digital stuff available. So Donjon is a great site for roll tables. They have everything there, whether you're looking for a map, treasure, encounters. They probably have a lot more than that there, but it's some of the things I've used it for.
I've taken some of those roll tables and, compiled, notebooks. So having, tools of things that you've already printed out to use that you can go back and forth to is always a great thing. But the thought that wouldn't get out of my head is to be willing to throw things out there, and if the party or the players bite on it, great. If not, keep that out there. I know Dave is very much of the philosophy of shotgun. I'm going to put out 7 different things, and whatever you decide to bite on, great. You've got an adventure that you can go find the seed. Well, those things that got mentioned, those things that are out there, they still happen. Those are still unresolved threads that you can go back and
threats. They might be threats.
Yeah, that's true. And you can go and interact with those, or like, oh, well, you didn't deal with that. Oh, well, that's a major ramification that is going to have to be resolved. Either some other hero stepped in and resolved it, and your party is going to have to hear of the acclaims that they received, or it's going to be unresolved, and now it's a larger threat because they've managed to build a stronghold or become a more credible threat.
Or a city's been covered in earwax and infested with monsters. These things happen, or a village gets murdered. Like, things just keep happening no matter what. The other thing too is like Nerder Doug will always ask me when I throw out an idea, is like, well, where is that going? Who did it? I'm like, I don't know. I just don't actually think that far ahead, but because I just I'm very reactionary when I GM. I wait and see what the players do, and from there I'll determine where things are going to go. I mean, when I ran the Quarter Worms game, I had a couple ideas, but there was definitely a couple points where I'm like, oh, these players aren't going to do anything with those ideas. They're just running away. What am I going to do now? And I was just like, well, you know what? Maybe they can meet some of the other natives, the other hairless apes, and they can interact with them, and that's where the story's going to go. And they're just not going to be involved with what's going on with the Dragon Empress and Emperors, and they're going to have a different path, and that's going to have to resolve itself one way or another.
So I mean that's the great thing is as players, living characters, in the world that we play D&D in, or worlds as the case may be, is you are not stuck to one storyline. If you look at all the campaign modules and stuff that's written, a lot of them do have, a winding path or a straight path. And there's some times where people have like, what? I've heard tales from fans where it's like, look, the players decided at one point in time they made a left turn and they ignored all of this, and from there I developed this whole story and I did this thing. And it's like, that's great, that's phenomenal. You homebrewed a whole end of your campaign because the players were no longer interested in what was prepared before. That's a fantastic story.
I also acknowledge there's a lot of GMs out there that hate the way I GM. And I've heard them call it BS, right? because I don't worry about what's going on. I change things, I add things, and I just react to the players. Because there's definitely this line of thinking that you can't do that. You have to build out the story, and the story stays that way, and that's the way it is. But I don't really care about any other story that doesn't involve my players. Like, to me, like, if I was going to do that, I might as well write a book, right? Isn't that what they call that? You're just writing a book. But to me, the only thing that's going to matter at the table is what involves my players, for both good and ill. I want to build a story around them and what they're doing. So, you know what? If I had something written before and it's not working because the players want to do something else, I change it. And I suggest you do the same thing. Change it. You know, engage the players. You know, have fun with the story that's being told at the table, not the story that was going to be told in your head. You know, and that can be really hard for GMs to kind of like abandon that, because you're like, well, I had these ideas. Maybe you can work them back in, maybe not. But, you know, whatever's happening at the table right now, that's what I concern myself with as a GM, and that's where I cherry pick my ideas from. And go, like, they want to do this thing or that thing, then okay, then I'll try and feed that back into the story to keep them engaged and to give them the experience that they're looking for.
Well, the whole idea of all of this is, you know, it's a communal storytelling, you know, entertainment, you know, device, catapult, whatever you want to call it. And all of us should be telling a story together. With Dungeon World and some of the other games that I've played, they talk about player agency and being able to, as a player, you know, put some narrative control on the story. You know, D&D hasn't fully embraced, you know, player agency yet, but I try to put it in my games as much as possible, so that they feel that they've got control of where the story is going from both a character and from a player perspective, because I want all of us to be doing this. I don't want it to be, you know, oh, let me entertain the players. Let me tell you this story and you interact with my monsters. That's not as much fun. You know, I've had a lot of times where I throw player agency out and somebody is like, well, oh, there's an encounter. This is what it is. And that word encounter, to most people, they're going to think combat. And the first time I threw it out, you know, using player agency in D&D, it's like, oh, well, we encounter this NPC. Oh, you're interested in role playing. Great. And we spent the next 10 minutes role playing with this you know, traveling person. All right. That's all you wanted. All right, I managed it. You know, it's great because they were able to direct me towards what they specifically wanted at that moment. It wasn't a combat, it was role-playing. You know, but as long as it involved one of those three pillars, you know, we're still moving the story forward. We're still having fun.
I guess the other caveat, though, is when it comes to agency and letting your players add, is knowing your players. Because we always have players at our table that were like, all right, you guys can throw something out, player agent, except for you, Mark, not you.
Well, I mean, it's, you know, you have to be able to, as Dave says, understand the players, but you also have to be able to understand or handle what kind of things that they're going to throw out there, you know. And if they come up with something that's off the wall and you're not ready for it, well, then it's going to be challenging. But if you've got the ability to, you know, field that request a little bit better, you know, the one time, you know, Mark was like, oh, it's a pile of treasure. I was in a bad mood. I had a serious headache when that happened. And I should have said, sure, there's a pile of treasure there, but there's also, and you put in the demon. Like, I should have given the treasure chest.
Should have been a pile of cursed coins.
But I had to just say no, or, you know, although, you know, looking back, I should have changed my answer. But like I said, I was not in the best headspace at that point in time.
Yeah, it's times like those when you have to like be able to figure out what is the fun thing to do, where it might be like, oh, sure, it's there, but it's stolen and there's going to be repercussions, or it's fake, it's counterfeit or fake. Well, why would someone do that? Like, you know, so when you're saying, if you can say yes to your players, the idea is being able to say yes in a way that creates more of an experience at the table, whether it's further adventures, role playing, or exploration, one of the pillars, or even it could even be combat.
Right.
Yes, there's treasure, but it's actually a trap because there's a cave fisher above using it as bait or whatever, something, an awakened cave fisher.
A pit feed.
a pit fiend, as the case may be. Well, you were talking about too the idea of letting players talk, right? And because we do a few stream games, there's definitely been times where the chat is like having fun with me because they're like, Dave hasn't said anything for like 20 minutes because both Quarter Worms and the Scarlet Sisterhood were like that, where the players would talk and interact with each other a lot. And I like that as a GM. I'm more than willing to give them, give them that spot in order to do that, because I think a lot of times it's far more entertaining than the stuff that I was going to throw in there of just doing encounter. And it also, again, like we said, it just gives you a place to mine for ideas, especially if they're speculating about what's happening in character or what's going on, or even as players, like maybe they're doing a little bit of that too at the table. That's better than for a stream game, but it's fun to let them do that and then mine those conversations for ideas that you're going to then turn into further adventures for them, even if it's not like the story arc that they're on right now, but you can bring it back later. And then one, it gives them a chance to kind of forgotten that conversation a little bit and let it breathe. And they might not even remember that they fed you the idea to begin with. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe you thought that far ahead.
That was amazing. How'd you come up with that? It's like, you did.
Yeah. Yeah, when you just feed back their ideas. And then the other thing too is always feeding back their ideas to them. It just almost guarantees that they're not going to leave your plot hooks on the table and do something else. More than likely, they're going to engage with that because it was their idea.
Yeah. So I mean that's always great. When it comes to allowing the players to talk. I've had a game recently that was just kids, and the kids sat and had a 10-15 minute role playing session with just the two of them, discussing over backstories that were somehow linked, that wasn't planned. It came out, and I was blown away at what this 10 and 12-year-old were doing that I don't regularly see in veteran gamers. Like, if you watch, I keep bringing this up, but if you watch the Critical Role, there's times that they will just all interact with each other, and Matt just gets to sit back and relax and plan his next thing, or listen to see what's going on. But in most tables that I've been to, I just don't see that.
Well, also, the thing that Ted's talking about was like an exchange between like a sack of something, right?
My nephew who's 12, he comes to my gaming table here, and he comes up with his character that he was a gnome urchin. He's 50, 60 years old, and when he was a kid, he lost this blue leather satchel, and it had stuff in it. And the other character, who's the other player, who's a friend of my son's, who's 10, he was playing a tiefling rogue, and when it starts coming up, he's like, "Oh yeah, I stole that. I got it right here." Like, it was like, what? Like, out of nowhere, like, he just said he had it, and the two of them just start going back and forth. And again, a 10 and a 12-year-old start discussing what proper reparations, there needs to have, what was in it, what happened to the stuff, and it was hysterical. And I'm like, what? I don't need to do anything. I just put my feet up and I relaxed and got entertained by the kids.
So now, as a GM, what I would do with that at some point is let them find something about the satchel. Maybe there's a secret compartment hidden in it or sewn in it. But as soon as you introduce something else with that blue satchel, like, they're going to be interested in it, and you just know they are because they've already invested a bunch of time in creating a story around this satchel. What if someone else shows up and like, that satchel's mine, it was stolen?
That's a pretty great idea. I'm going to have to take some notes on that one.
It's so really, and that's in a nutshell what improv GMing is. It's just like, it's taking notes about what's going on with the characters in the game right now, and then feeding that back to them later. The hardest session is always the first session when you're an improv GM, and that's when you might have to come up with a catalyst, something to get the adventure going. But once you have that one session under your belt, if you have a very engaged and active player base at the table, you should be able to mine tons of ideas that you'll be able to keep filtering and feeding back into the game. And that's where, if you want to prepare things, it's very handy to build the sandbox that they're going to play in and have lots of things for them to play with. Not specifically, the how to play with it, which is the more of the linear adventure where you've planned everything out. But, you just have different arcs, different rumors, different things for them to investigate, interesting factions.
Here's a question, just came in. We haven't had a lot of questions, a lot of people sharing stuff, but Shirexelen Shilif, I'm probably butchering it, asks, do you have any tips for playing NPC children? My party just found out that one of the young noble boys is being abused, and the ranger offered to help. I plan on having them smuggle the child out.
Don't be creepy.
You got to be careful when it comes to dealing with kid stuff. We're in a very sensitive time frame right now, but I mean, I would strike more on the innocence and try to work with that. I mean, even for someone who is dealing with a troubled past, speak to that innocence, whether it's robbed or not. Just go down that road and just try to find an open and honest person for that child to wind up going with.
I would like think of children that are in your life and model the NPC off one of those. It could even be a personality in a book. It could be a personality in other form of media, whether it's a movie or a TV show, or it could just literally be a real person that and you can try and infuse your NPCs with aspects of that in order to make them feel more real and kind of think about how they would if you have your own children, or if you have nephews or nieces, or you just know children. I would try and channel one of those into the NPC and think about how they would react in those situations.
If I'm going to model it after either of my kids, incessant talking, whatever their current obsession is, they will absolutely talk about it to strangers, regardless of whatever. Son loves just talking about his current book series that he's reading. Stowe, you're a person in line at CVS. Let me tell you about this book. I'm like, are you serious? I'm happy that you're reading, kiddo, but come on now.
I was helping the YouTuber formerly known as Nerdarchist Ryan move his studio space when he was in college, and my son David was with me at the time, and he was like young, only like the 3 to 5 range, I want to say. And I went to go get the car, and they were waiting for me with the stuff. I get back, and my brother is like, "Hey, your son almost got stabbed with a box cutter." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And it's just Ryan being a wise guy. But he's like, "Yeah," he just started talking to the homeless guy on the corner there. And, he was talking about his shoes, which had Cars characters on them. And the homeless gentleman is like, "No, I don't get out to movies very often." But and that's just kids. That's the other thing about kids. They kind of just say whatever they're thinking. There's no filters. If they think a thing, it's likely to pop out of their mouth. They're going to talk about what they're interested in. They don't care what you're interested in, for the most part. It could be things like Ted said, they have a toy and they want to show it to you, and then they want to get another one and show it to you, or they want to tell you something about something that happened to them. There's nothing to do with what's going on now. You do things like that. I thought Matt's portrayal of Kiri was pretty good. Mm-hmm. The Kenku in Critical Role, that's a pretty good. It's a good example.
So we're down to our last few minutes. We announced the Easy Roller Dice contest. We announced the replacement winner for the Black Cube. Do we want to give away something else? Are we feeling extra giveaway?
Sure. What do you want to give away? What are you going to grab?
Board games or coins. We'll get one of these new ones.
All right, we'll ask them. What do you guys want us to give away? Board games or coins? We're going to pick one of those to give away.
Well, while they're doing that, there's a question from Edward Fleming. Says, "What are your thoughts on random plot generators, and have you made any?"
I haven't made a random plot generator, but I think they're great to get things started if you're unsure of where to go. I know the one game that Nate ran a while ago was entirely out of the DMG. He just rolled up everything, the major plot villain, the major story that was going on. They can be a lot of fun if you aren't interested or unwilling to come up with your own. I've used one of these books back here that has some story elements into it for one shots. What is it? The Demon Cults and Secret Societies by Kobold Press. When I went out to LA, or when Dave and I went out to LA, we ran some games, and I turned to one of the cults and I'm like, boom, here's an adventure seed. I'm going to base my adventure off of that. It wound up, twisting and going in a different direction than what I had originally planned. But it was out of there was a random. It wasn't something I came up with, but it was just a one shot. So
looks like coins are winning.
All right,
6-4.
All right, so we'll go with coins. Do we want to give away all of it in one? We got the Mythic Mint, roughly 150 some coins. And we've got rare elements, not quite as many, but
I think we
definitely
keep
more
them
variety.
separate company, separate coins.
All right, so this one is currently on Kickstarter. That one was on Kickstarter.
Yeah, and you know what? This is pretty active. If you want to drop it in a sock and take it to your enemies, you can.
So we're looking to go with that one then?
Yeah.
All right, so
I feel like I could knock Ted right out with this.
I wouldn't think much.
You're like, I'm already going down now.
All right, so we're just going to grab somebody random from the chat.
Yeah, I'll do the magic finger trick.
Oh, Dave's going to do the magic finger trick this time.
Yeah, Doug, you can tell me when to stop. All right.
Oh, James
Bento.
Leslie.
Well, it's kind of.
All right.
I'm thinking I'm on Bento San.
Okay, all right. Well, Bento San, hope you're still in the chat. Reach out to us via email, nerdarchy@gmail.com, and give me your email, not your email address, we'll get that. I need your shipping address so that I can be able to send these your way.
Yeah, so email us with your shipping address, and we will get them out to you ASAP. Hopefully you have not abandoned the chat already. So the one that my finger was right next to, or the one that was right next to it, was James Leslie. So we will give it to James if Bento is in the chat. So that's perfect.
He's in Australia. Is that a problem?
It is not. It's not a problem. It's only a problem if you don't email us at nerdarchy@gmail.com and give us your email address. Good.
Well, we just we ship worldwide, and I understand that
we're not always happy about it.
Yeah.
But we do it.
Ship to Australia. It's not cheap, but that's on us, not on you, sir, or ma'am, as the case may be. I don't know what bento is.
Isn't that like the sushi boxes? The bento boxes? The lunch specials? Sushi. So, hopefully our discussion will help some of you with, improv GMing. And also, I'm sure there was a bunch of great suggestions in the chat as well, which the chat will still be up there after the video is done. So folks will be able to go back and look through it and check it out if they want, as well as some of the other great questions. So that's awesome. Stay tuned this week because we're going to be announcing the next Easy Roller Dice competition. And they're all pretty much the same right now for as long as Easy Roller Dice will let us give stuff away. We're running the same contest, set of metal dice, the 3-pack of other dice, the
tray, the cup, the bag.
Do you want to mention D&D in the Castle?
So, oh yeah, that's a good call. Maybe we should talk about that. The three of us that are here right now will be running games at D&D in the Castle. We will each have a table where we're running
6 consecutive sessions over 3 days. It's going to be awesome and amazing.
we have night GMs and activities, Lisa Chen, as well as V from the Crafting Muse. So this is going to be a ton of fun. It's I don't know if you're following us on social media, you'll see we're using the hashtag Jersey Shire because right now we're all in New Jersey currently. I think Doug is originally from Ohio, and I think Lisa is in the process of moving out of New Jersey. But currently, when we established it, everyone was from Jersey. So hashtag Jersey Shire. It's gonna be a lot of fun. If you are one of our patrons, we sent out a message in order to get you on the pre-registration if you were interested. So a handful of folks did get back to me and they wanted more information. Right now, currently, our castle is half full. So I imagine it's going to book full before too long. The first castle I think they set up is already full, and then there's a third castle.
And the castle that we got's got a moat.
It does have a moat, so that's pretty cool. And now we just need to get crocodiles.
I think someone
piranha.
I think someone was talking about putting the the pool floats of crocodiles in there.
That's for weenies. I think we need real crocodiles or real piranhas.
I'd rather have the crocs than the piranhas.
Quippers, yeah. Quipper familiar. They're all Quipper familiars. They're all familiars. D&D in a castle. Sphere of Annihilation. I think that's their vote for the for the moat. That would be a quite effective moat.
Yeah.
We would get AD&D down. We'd be like, what do you want to put in next?
So we, the three of us, have to kind of put our heads together and figure out what stories we're going to wind up running and how and why or whatnot are they going to be interconnected.
Yep, and that's definitely a thing we're going to have to work on. And I think I would actually end up at several of these castles. I'm not sure how many yet, but my wife is like, you're going to England to play D&D castle and you're just not coming home. I'm like, roughly, something like that. But with that, it is time. So we want to thank everyone for hanging out with us today. We greatly appreciate it. Keep an eye out for that contest that's coming. We also have another contest going over at Saver Dice to win. What are we giving away? Dungeon Painter Studio software. We're going to be giving away 3 keys. That's pretty awesome. That software is fun to play with. Guy has made some really cool maps. He made a freaking flying, what does he call them? Bolivian sky whale as one of the maps.
Wow.
So apparently you can make a map of a sky whale if you need to. I guess it could be aquatic whale as well. So you can do a lot of stuff with it.
Fun.
So with that, until next time,
Stay nerdy.